Hello traders and happy Friday. So I just want to do a quick run through of the positions. Now I am not planning on making any change to anything here today. Our Google is doing quite well in the wheel strategy. This trade is coming back nicely as well. It's borderline to the point where maybe this right wing should be raised a little bit, but I'm going to show you in a minute why I'm not probably going down that road. Same thing could be said here. A case can be made for just pulling this trade off. Now again, I do have a good till cancel order out there to just close this trade at $3. It came close to hitting earlier today, but then when our market just ripped to the upside, that is not in a position where it's going to hit now. We're about 90 minutes before the close of market, so it is possible that we could get a little bit of a pullback going into the close, and if we do, it's conceivable this trade could maybe close. And if it does, fine. If not, fine. I'm fine leaving this open until Monday. And this trade's doing great. This is a perfect example of putting on a broken wing butterfly trade when volatility is higher. You have virtually no risk to the upside on this trade. There is a very small amount of upside risk here, about $150. But if the market stabilizes or holds up here or continues a little higher, there's an adjustment we'll make where we'll raise this wing and essentially lock in some of that upside profit. Apple is actually taking a little bit of pressure to the upside here. Again, not overly concerned about that just yet, and I'll show you again why. We'll take a quick look at a chart. And same thing here. So there's a case that could be made for maybe making an adjustment here, but again, common theme here. If we come in and look at, I guess I should be on a chart here. If we come in and take a look at our SPX chart. So as you all know from last week's weekend update, my contention was that we were likely to bounce off of this general level, this 4,200 range, for a multitude of reasons. One, we had this line which had been prior resistance, okay? And then once we pop through that resistance oftentimes becomes support. So we had this yellow line, and again, it's not an exact thing. It's a general range that the markets tend to work off of. But the fact that we had this here, that we have this uptrend line that has been touched, once, twice, 3 times, that trend line was acting as support. And then this blue line here is a 200-day simple moving average. So all of those different things, each one of those individually, there are the proponents of people that trade off of those methodologies. So there's a lot of people that trade off trend lines. You get a pullback to the trend line, you start buying, you go long. There's a lot of people that trade based off of breakouts. Well, again, we had a breakout here, pulled back to that breakout. There's a contingency of people that, consider that a buy signal or a long signal. And then, of course, you have the 200-day simple moving average. There's a whole contingency of people that consider that a buy signal. And, of course, the confluence of all three of them just made it that much more likely that we were going to get a bounce off of that area. Now, the reason that I'm not, going out of my way to all of a sudden shift all these trades to bullish is we're coming into what had previously been, in this case, a support area. So we had support here, we rallied, pulled back, had support here, we rallied, pulled back. It kind of stabilized there for a day or two, but then broke through, rallied back up. Then it's fell off hard from that range, coming right back to that area. So my expectation at this moment is that while we're looking really strong today, I mean, we blew above these, 1, 2, 3 prior day bars. That's definitely a strong indication, but it's rallying right into this, 4,300 to 4,325 range, which I suspect may be a little bit of resistance. So based on that, I'm not in a super rush to go and adjust all those positions to be highly bullish in nature. Might it make sense to adjust one of them? Yeah, maybe. Or if this one were to pop off, that would be ideal. If we get a little bit of a pullback going into the close here, and this one were to just close, because of course this one is delta neutral. This one is slightly negative delta. This one's slightly negative delta. Of course, this one's positive delta. This one's now pretty heavily negative delta. So bottom line is that something I'm expecting stabilization or a little bit of a pullback off of this big rally next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere in there. And a little pullback will do excellent for all of these trades. So that's my game plan. I'm really not going to change anything. If this trade trips off by the end of the day, probably won't, but if it trips off by the end of the day, great. I'll take it at my $3 price. And so anyhow, this also can act as the weekend update. And there hasn't been any change in the P&L diagram because we didn't close anything this week. Next week, hopefully, these things will stabilize in these areas and we'll be able to get some decent closes and may even be able to roll Google out next week again, lowering our cost basis in Google. So for right now, this is the weekend update and no changes expected here today. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend.